Hello everyone. Today, I'll be using some simple household items to create useful DIY projects. Here, I have an old light bulb, and I'll reuse its outer casing to build an antenna. First, I remove the top cover of the light bulb to access the components inside. Next, I remove and separate the circuit board inside, since it isn't needed for the antenna design. I'll keep only the outer bulb housing to use as the antenna frame. Every like and subscription motivates me to create more creative DIY projects. Thank you so much for your support. In the next step, I drill a hole in the bottom of the bulb. This opening will be used to install and secure one of the antenna components. Then I drill another hole in the side of the bulb housing. This opening will provide a path for the wiring or connector, making it easier to arrange the internal components neatly and prepare for the next assembly steps. Here, I have an old phone charging cable, and I'll reuse it as the main wiring inside the antenna assembly. First, I feed the cable through the hole in the bottom of the light bulb and apply hot glue around the opening to hold it firmly in place and prevent it from moving during assembly. Then, I route the remaining part of the cable through the hole on the side of the bulb housing to keep the wiring neat and make the next connection steps more convenient. In the next step, I'll use a magnet as part of the antenna's receiving assembly. I'll also reuse 3 metal keys and attach them to the surface of the magnet to create a distinctive receiving structure. I apply hot glue to the surface of the magnet, then place the 3 keys on top and adjust their position so they are evenly arranged. The hot glue keeps the components securely in place during assembly. In this video, I'll also reuse a metal key to make a simple soldering tool. First, I use a plastic bottle to make the handle of the device. I use a utility knife to cut a small slot in the center of the bottle cap, creating an opening for the metal component. Next, I insert the metal key into the slot in the bottle cap and adjust its position so it stays firmly in place, preparing it for the next assembly steps. Next, I drill a small hole in the bottom of the plastic bottle to create a path for the electrical wire to pass through. Here, I prepare a short piece of electrical wire to use as the power lead for the soldering tool. I feed the wire through the hole and into the inside of the plastic bottle. Then, I apply adhesive around the assembly area to secure the key to the bottle cap and prevent it from moving during use. Next, I strip the end of the electrical wire to expose the copper conductor inside, preparing it for the connection. Then, I twist the exposed copper wire securely around the end of the metal key to create a firm connection point. At this point, the basic frame of the soldering tool is complete. For the other end of the electrical wire, I attach an alligator clip. The alligator clip provides a quick and secure contact point and makes the connection easier to attach, remove, and check during testing. In the next step, I use a bolt and a nut to create the heating section of the device. I insert the bolt through the small hole in the metal key and tighten the nut to hold it securely in place. Next, I repurpose the metal core from a terminal block as an intermediate component between the heating section and the soldering tip. Once the metal core is removed, I attach it to the bolt on the heating section and tighten the nut to secure the connection, preparing the assembly for the next step. In the next step, I'll repurpose an old battery to make the soldering tip. I remove the carbon core inside and reshape it to fit the design of the tip. This video is for educational purposes only and is intended for DIY enthusiasts. Projects involving soldering, electricity, and mechanical tools can involve potential risks. Always wear appropriate protective equipment, follow proper safety procedures, and use tools correctly. Do not attempt any dangerous procedures if you do not have the necessary knowledge or experience. Then, I attach the homemade soldering tip to the metal core of the heating section and secure it firmly. At this point, the soldering device is basically complete and ready for the next testing steps. Now I'll continue building the antenna. I attach the magnet to the bottom of the light bulb to create a mounting point for the receiving element. Next, I strip the ends of the two small wires inside the phone charging cable to expose the copper conductors and prepare them for the connection. Then I twist the two wire ends into the holes in the keys attached to the magnet. This connection creates electrical contact between the wires and the metal antenna elements, while also helping keep the wires securely in place during assembly. Next, I use a wooden board as the base for the antenna. I place the antenna frame in the center of the board and apply hot glue around the contact area to secure it firmly and make the overall structure more stable. In the next step, I repurpose a circuit board from an old phone charger as the antenna's connection interface. First, I apply hot glue to secure the circuit board to the wooden base, creating a stable and neatly arranged connection point. Next, I prepare two small electrical wires to connect the antenna's receiving section to the circuit board. I twist the ends of the two wires into the holes and the keys attached to the magnet. This creates contact between the receiving elements and the wires while also helping keep the connection secure during assembly. Then, I create two solder joints on the circuit board to serve as connection points for the wires. Next, I solder the other ends of the two electrical wires to the two solder joints on the circuit board. This allows the signal from the receiving section to travel through the wires to the connection interface. In the next step, I prepare a USB cable to serve as the signal cable connector for the antenna. The USB plug can connect to the corresponding port on the circuit board, providing a convenient connection between the antenna and an external device. Next, I'll use a length of signal cable to connect the antenna to the TV. First, I strip the insulation from the end of the cable to expose the inner conductors, then separate the exposed wires into two individual groups. This prepares the cable for the connection and creates more stable contact points. Then, I twist the wires from the USB cable together with the exposed conductors of the signal cable to create the connection points. Next, I wrap electrical tape tightly around the joints to secure the connections and protect the contact points from becoming loose or accidentally shorting during use. I repeat the same process on the other end of the signal cable to create another connection point. Then I attach the cable to a TV connector. This connector allows the signal cable to connect directly to the antenna input on the TV, making the installation more convenient and preparing the antenna for signal testing. After completing the charging cable connector, I connect it to the antenna to complete the signal path. Finally, I connect a phone to the USB cable on the antenna device to test the connection and complete the setup. I will use a battery pack as the power source for the soldering device. Next, I connect the electrical leads to the power source and carefully check all contact points before beginning the tests. When the soldering tip makes contact with the connection point, a spark appears immediately. This shows that the device is generating electrical current and heat at the tip, allowing me to move on to the next tests. However, this process can involve high temperatures and electrical sparks, so safety must be a top priority throughout the testing process. For the first test, I will check the ability to join two electrical wires. I prepare two wires and create a connection between them. After completing the joint, I test its strength by gently pulling on both ends. The result shows that the two wires remain securely connected and the joint does not separate easily. For the next test, I will repair the broken handle of a metal cup. After completing the reinforcement, I inspect the handle again and check the strength of the repaired joint. The result shows that the handle has been secured back in place and the joint remains fairly strong under a light test. Through these tests, the device has demonstrated its ability to generate heat and perform some simple joining tasks on electrical wires and metal materials. First, I'll switch to a TV channel to check the signal reception without connecting the antenna. As you can see, without the antenna connected, the TV only displays the message, no signal. Next, I'll connect the DIY antenna to the signal input on the back of the TV for the actual test. And here is the result. Almost immediately after connecting the antenna, the TV channels begin to appear. The picture is clear, the colors remain stable, and there are no continuous signal interruptions. To make the test more convincing, I'll perform one more experiment. I disconnect the antenna from the TV and observe the signal changes. As soon as the antenna is unplugged, the screen instantly returns to the no signal message. All channels disappear, confirming that the signal truly came from this homemade antenna. Now, I'll reconnect the antenna once again. As you can see, within just a few seconds, the channels reappear and continue working normally. This proves that many electronic parts that seem to have only one purpose can be reused in completely different and surprisingly useful ways. Not only does this save money, but it also opens the door to many more exciting DIY ideas. If you enjoyed this project or found it helpful, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Your support motivates me to continue creating more repair, recycling, and DIY projects in the future. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video.